Hey, Mark here. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what this episode's going to be about. So, I spent about the last 18 months researching 82 vampire films to see if vampire movies are better, according to critics and audience members from Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, if these vampire movies feature a lot of teeth to body blood consumption or no blood consumption. No vampires bite anything. Are they better if vampires abstain from chugging blood from their victims? So this is a really random episode. I just wanted to. I've been dealing with these vampire movies for about 18 months now. So we just had a fun chat with Nick of Radio Rehack, and we just had a great time discussing all the data, how I came to the conclusion, and what actually is better. So stay tuned for this, and I hope you enjoy the talk about vampire movies. Thanks. Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark, let the right one in, Hoffmeyer, and joining me is Nick, let me in, Rehack. I don't know why that's funny.
I'll take it.
They're both very good vampire films.
Absolutely.
That's a problem. I always wait. Whenever I pre-write an intro, it never works for me, so I always come up with it on the fly, and I'm like, why don't we just do the let the right one in ones?
And it works out great.
I did a pivot. Those are two classics, right? Well, Let the Right One In, I think, is a stone cold stunner classic. And then I think that Let Me In is an excellent remake that belongs on the Mount Rushmore of horror remakes, I would say. That sounds about right.
Oh, no, absolutely. And it is one of those rare ones. That, and I think Fright Night would double as another one where it's like, hey, this is actually good. Like, you don't really expect it because you go in having all these preconceived notions because you've seen the original one a handful of times. You already have that association with the film, so you're going in like, this isn't going to cut it. And then it finds a way to surprise you, and you're like, I'm wrong. But then you go to do that for another film, and it lets you down. And so it's real hit and miss anymore. You can't really trust it.
Absolutely. And I'm so happy you brought up Fright Night 2011 because, David Tennant, Anton Yelchin, Imogen Poots, Toni Collette, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Colin Farrell, such a low. I'm just naming names now, but it's just such a stacked cast, and I love the chemistry of them. Actually, Anton Yelchin and Imogen Poots reunited for Green Room, which is my favorite 21st century horror film. I think it's outstanding. So yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that. I'm really glad that you joined me today, Nick, because it's just I've spent the last year and a half analyzing these 82 vampire movies and counting, with a stopwatch and with timestamps, the amount of blood consumption in each. And it's been so long I don't quite remember where the idea came from, but I think one day I was just sitting there. So my ideas for these massive data articles come from something that makes me laugh. So I think I was sitting there watching Thirst or one of those movies, and I just thought, man, there's a lot of blood drinking in this. I wonder if it's better if they drink more blood or less. And then I was like, okay, well, I might as well research it. And I was totally naive into this because I'm like, I'll just grab 50. So I gathered all the movies I owned. I went to Hulu, Amazon, HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, any free trials, and then eventually I just did them. My local library, Hoopla, Tubi, Crackle, TV.
You scoured the earth.
Yeah. Dude, you wouldn't believe how happy I was that Son of Dracula is streaming for free on Tubi now. I was like, oh my gosh. So I found that and I just scoured through it. And, I was going to go 50. But I don't know if you know this about me, but I was like, there's 50, but there's more. So I was like, I'll do 60. And I was like, then I'll do 70. Then I'll do 80. And I was like, then I'll get 82. And then I'm completely spent.
82 is the sweet spot. Now, moving forward, anytime you're collecting data, 82 is where it's at.
Oh, that's my goal for every data post now is 82. And my results didn't change from 50 through 82. The results for the 4 categories I have are still the same. But
that is interesting.
Yeah, they've stayed the same, and I guess for me, but I don't know. I knew if I put up 50, they're like, well, you missed this movie, you missed this movie. So I was like, I'm gonna get 80, and then I was like, I'll do 82 because Blood Red Sky just came out. So this 82 feels pretty good, man. But I'm tired. I'm tired of they've sucked the life out of me. These vampire movies.
I'm so mad at that pun.
Yeah. Oh man, I had the biggest smile on my face when I said that, and
I can hear it.
Yeah. I can hear your smile. Isn't that in Tad Hamilton? No, he knows her. Wait, she has 18 different smiles, and he knows which ones they are. Whoever wrote that needs to get a Charlie horse. Assuming it's a man. Horse? Assuming it's a man. Yeah, just walk up. Hey, you write Tad Hamilton? Yeah. Boom, right in the Charlie. Horse him.
Just, I would say he's down, and he's like, "Oh, what's going on? You got to walk on it." I can't. It hurts. So that's the point. If you walk on it, it goes away. You're a liar.
You got it in the meat.
Got him in the meat.
He's like, this won't do any permanent damage or bruising, but wow, this hurts.
This is intensely inconvenient right now. Yeah.
I'll be up in a few minutes, and I'll forget about it. But geez, I wrote that movie.
It's a couple skating. My girlfriend's waiting on me right now.
I wrote that movie 20 years ago. I'd get him for the other one then. Like, own up to it. But yeah, it's. But why? Okay, I know this is weird. I'm like kind of telling you how I did this, Nick. But I don't know if you know. Like, you've seen my data posts before. I never really go into them with a plan because I know if you have a plan, then you'll try to mold everything around that plan. Like subconsciously,
exactly.
You will just look for what you want. Like, does that make sense? So I guess I collected about 50 movies before I even figured out what I wanted to do with them.
Well, I think that's the key of it, too, is the key is while you're doing it, that's when you start to figure out, oh, here's another criteria I didn't think about. Oh, that's interesting about that. Hey, these two have a common thread. Does that thread run through the others? And after you've amassed, that's when you can take a look and go, oh, okay. And you can, look at it in a number of ways. You can look at it by decade, by director, by act, all these different facets and ways to look at it. And like you said before, if you go into it looking for these specific things, then you're going to tailor it to those specific things. But if you go in just in general, like if the more blood you suck, is it a better film? Then you start to find a little through line. So I think you did it the right way. It's a little crazy going for 50 out of the gate instead of like an incremental kind of thing, but it makes sense. And I'm excited to go over this data and have you share your findings with me.
Well, that's the thing, Nick. Like, there's so many people in this world who they're like, well, I wonder, like that. Tom Cruise runs a lot. So for Rotten Tomatoes, I watched every movie and figured out how far he ran in each. Like, why don't you just do it? Like Dwayne Johnson's really sweaty in Fast 5. Well, how sweaty was he? I'll try to figure it out. Like, I guess I've found a sweet spot in areas that people just don't want to spend time on researching.
And those make for the best posts. Like, those are the best lunchtime reads. And then you learn about it and you're like, this is not. And then maybe you end up watching one of those films and you come away with a better appreciation of it.
I am so happy that you said lunchtime read because no article, people are like, it hasn't reinvented the wheel. I'm like, well, how many times has the wheel been reinvented? Like the concept of it. So it's like, it's very rare for a movie to reinvent the wheel. Or it's very rare for a movie to change someone, or an article to change somebody's life. I just want people to read it. Like, Nick, you're at lunch and you're scrolling through your phone and you just see this and you're like, that's all I want. Like
it's a couple chuckles. And then it's like, what are you reading? Oh, let me send it to you. And then it spreads. It's the ripple effect.
And also, this is so objective, I guess, the way I did it. And, I mean, I didn't want to inject my own personality into this. This is just data speaking for itself. And I feel like my data set's big enough to stand on its own. And I was really... So, obviously, when you do something like this, like, the worst thing that could have happened to me is if this was like, oh, movies that feature 1 to 29 seconds of blood drinking are the best. Like, that's, oh, man. But this data works because the vampire movies that feature 0 teeth to... Oh, so most importantly, this data is about teeth to body. Like drinking blood from a cup, slurping blood off the floor. Like in Ganja and Hess and movies like that. They don't count. It has to be teeth on a person or an animal and drinking. And I love that the highest rated movies on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, like the average, are the ones with zero teeth to body drinking. It's funny. Like that's those. There's only 9 of them, but that's still the most. Like those movies have the highest tomato meter average, and that makes me happy. And IMDb user score.
Yeah, and I think that's because some of them take a different look at it. Some of them look at them from a different angle. Some of them feel like they're a regular film, but then someone's like, it's missing something, vampires, and then they added that aspect after it. And I think that adds too when they're focused on the story and not so much the gimmick of, we need a steak, we need garlic, we need this, we need that. It's like, no, let's look at a different aspect of it. In a weird way, reinvent the wheel.
Not again. But you since you're the host of Radio Rehack, a wonderful show that everyone should listen to, have you watched Only Lovers Left Alive?
I have. Actually was fortunate enough to catch it in theaters.
Oh, it's beautiful. Jarmusch it's one of it's one of my favorite movies of recent memory. I think it's beautiful. I love it.
It is gorgeous. I do enjoy the soundtrack. I don't think it was for me though, but I think that's mainly because I don't care for Tom Hiddleston. I don't know what it is about him. I am less inclined to see a film that he is in. Great cast though.
Yeah.
Again, Anton Yelchin's in there.
Homeboy.
You got Jeffrey Wright, John Hurt, Tilda Swinton, phenomenal. But there's something about Hiddleston that's just I can't fully get into it. But it is. I mean, it's Jarmusch. At the end of the day, it's enjoyable. It's going to look great. It's going to sound great.
Yeah,
but
so
just missed it for me.
Watching Tilda Swinton in that movie, everything she does is just perfect, and I kind of love what Mia Wasikowska is in it as well, and I just think I don't know. I love the vibe of it. I get what you're saying about Hiddleston, but I think Jarmusch uses him well with his pouting. I think it's some A+ pouting in it, and I appreciate that. But I don't know. I'm glad you watched that because it's really good. And I wanted to promote your show in a very non-clumsy way. So music and that.
Well, I appreciate that.
But yeah, no. So I guess here's my 4 categories: 0 seconds of blood consumption, 1 to 29 seconds, and then 30 to 59 seconds, and then 60 plus. So in order. So it's interesting. The tomato meter average, and the IMDb average are the exact same for each category. So the highest is 0 drinking. The second best is 60 plus seconds. In third place is 1 to 30 seconds, because I guess it's closer to 0. And then 30 to 60 is in last place. Which, I mean, there's really no way for me to say why. But maybe it's just, they just were kind of like, I guess we should have some blood drinking, but not like just somewhere in the middle. Like it seems kind of half with it. Like either, Nick, we're making a vampire movie, no blood drinking. Or, Nick, we're making a vampire movie, they are going to chug blood. Like, it's going to be Queen of the Damned level, which almost drove me insane watching. Because there's so much blood consumption in Queen of the Damned. I mean, there's over 295 seconds of it. And then actually Interview with Anne Rice, her movies. So the top 5 movies were From Dusk Till Dawn, Thirst, Interview with the Vampire, The Addiction, which ends with like a blood riot, and Christopher Walken as a vampire. Oh my gosh. And Queen of the Damned. So those are the 5 highest, with the most blood, teeth on body consumption films. And, From Dusk Till Dawn drove me mad, Nick, because there's so much background blood drinking. So you're sitting there and you're staring at your TV going, is that vampire stripper drinking that trucker's blood in the background? Like, that's the question you're asking yourself while staring at a screen. And yeah, there's a lot.
Keeps you up at night.
Which band would you rather be in, Nick? You're in a band. Your name is Hanks McGee. You're a immortal vampire. Mm-hmm. And someone goes, you can be in the new metal Queen of the Damned band. You can be in the band that plays the dead bodies in From Dusk Till Dawn. You could be the bassist for Tom Hiddleston in Only Lovers Left Alive. Or, let's see, is there another band in here? Let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, so those are your 3 options. Which one would you take?
I gotta go From Dusk Till Dawn.
Really?
Yeah, it's a rowdy atmosphere. Like, it is nuts. And I think that's that's such a high energy show, and that's going to be that much more exciting, I think, than the other ones.